if I told you that T. Jakes, who was in charge of the Potter homes, quit his important job, but no one knew the real reason? The real reason for his sudden choice has been a secret until now. Sarah Jakes Roberts, his daughter, has finally come forward and told a side of the story that no one saw coming. But what she said shocked me, and it's not just trouble in the family. You might not know as much about the Jakes family as you thought. Stay tuned, because in this video we'll reveal the real reason T.D. Jakes took the brave step down from his throne, and the family's secrets that could shake the church to its core. For many years, T.D. Jakes has been a huge deal in the Christian community. He is known for his powerful preaching, leading one of the biggest churches in the U.S., and having an impact on both the faith community and the entertainment business. But not long ago, the unthinkable happened. Many people are wondering why Jakes quit. The sudden death of such an important leader led to a lot of rumors, ideas, and guesses. Was it about health? Something went wrong in his work, right? Or did the story have more to it than met the eye? A lot of people think that the truth will never come out. Now, though, his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts has come forward to clear things up. Here, we'll look at what Sarah Jakes Roberts has said about her father's shocking decision to step down, as well as what this means for the Potter's house and the future of the Jakes family church. Stay with us, because the information she's given us will blow your mind. With the news that TD, anyone who knew Jakes was stepping down as head of the Potter's house was shocked when he told them. He had been in charge of the office for many years, making it one of the world's biggest and most important churches. Millions of people saw him as a spiritual leader because of his powerful lectures, work to help people around the world, and charitable work. But then, T.D. Jakes did something that had never been done before. He quit. The choice wasn't made without much thought, and no one saw it coming, especially given how important he had been in the church and the town. Initial reactions from the public went from worry to confusion. Was T.D. Jakes not feeling well? Did it have to do with you? What happened that this man who had given his whole life to the church chose to leave it all? There was a lot of talk for months. Some insiders suggested that things were getting tougher, while others talked quietly about problems within the church leadership. But none of this could have made people ready for what came next. The real reason he decided to quit, what his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts finally told everyone the truth. Sarah Jakes Roberts didn't say much about her father's choice to step down for months. Many people thought she would be able to see all the action because she was one of the most important people in the ministry. She had already shown that she was a strong leader and speaker in the faith community, but she hadn't said anything about this problem yet. Then Sarah finally spoke up one day. She said in an exclusive interview that her dad's choice wasn't because he was weak or failed as a person. It was about something much more important, keeping his health and reputation alive. She told him that all of her dad's responsibilities had worn him down over the years. He wasn't sure if he could keep up the pace that had made him famous because of the constant stress, mental exhaustion, and physical strain of running an empire like the Potter's house. Jakes had been helping other people so much that he had lost touch with his health, his family, and his peace of mind and their importance to him. Sarah didn't stop there, though. It broke her heart when she talked about how her father felt guilty for not being able to keep up the same level of guidance as before. It was hard for him to keep his personal life, work, and family all in balance, and it showed in ways that no one could see. Then she talked about how her family had come together to support him, but in the end, it was his choice to make. She said in her own words that he decided to step down for his own health and to give the church new leadership. It wasn't about being weak, it was about being smart. People were very interested when Sarah Jakes Roberts talked about her father's personal crisis. Just what did she mean by this? What were the tough choices that T.D. Jakes had to make in his personal life? The choices he made that caused him to quit his job as head of the Potter's house? Sarah told her father that his reckoning wasn't just about his health or the stress of running one of the world's biggest megachurches. It was about a greater spiritual battle he had been having for a while. So far as Sarah knows, T.D. Jakes had reached a point in his life where he started to wonder if he was following his true calling. Even though he had been successful, he felt unhappy. There was almost a spiritual weariness that couldn't be overlooked. This was a hard thing to understand for someone who had built a world ministry from scratch. T.D. Jakes was always known for being a brave and sure leader who never wavered in his faith. Behind closed doors, though, He started to think about whether leading such a big group of people was really the best way to honor his faith and legacy. It was during this time of reflection that T.D. Jakes chose to step down, not only for his own health but also for the safety of the church. He knew that staying in charge while going through these problems could threaten the church he had worked so hard to build. He was humble and smart, so he made the hard decision to pass the torch on. Sarah also said that this choice was made to give the next generation more power. T.D. Jakes knew that he wasn't the only person who could move the church forward. In the last few years, his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts and other young church leaders have been taking on bigger roles. This shows that they are ready to lead the church into the next stage. It wasn't about being weak, it meant putting the ministry's future in the hands of people who could lead with new ideas. Sarah Jakes Roberts and her dad T.D. Jakes was ready to step down, but there was one big problem left to solve. Where would the new leader come from? Who would take over the Potter's House and make sure that the important work of this mission would live on? A lot of people thought Sarah would automatically take the lead, but things were much more complicated than that. There were other important people in the church, like ministers, pastors, and leaders, who each had their own ideas about who should be the next leader. No matter how important T.D. Jakes' choice to step down was for his family, it was also important for the whole congregation. When different groups in the church started to speak out, the conflict started to rise. Some people fully supported Sarah because they thought she was the best person to carry on her father's work, but some people were more careful. Someone asked Sarah if she was ready to take on the huge task of leading a church with 30,000 members. She had only recently taken on a bigger responsibility, and she wasn't very experienced in running such a big business. Tor Roberts, Sarah's husband, was a major figure in this argument. His own ministry had grown and gained a lot of followers while he was co-pastor of the Potter's House in Denver. Many people were interested in whether Tor would become more involved in running the huge church after T.D. Jakes left. Others were worried that his participation could lead to a conflict of interest or make it hard for Sarah to lead on her own. Sarah's public position was clear during all of this. She was all set. Her father had carefully taught her, and she had already shown great leadership in her own way. But there were still people in the church who didn't believe, who thought the change should go more smoothly. Were Sarah's leadership changes going to give the church the new energy it needed, or would they lead to a power fight within the ministry? Talk spread of a secret meeting between the top leaders of the Potter's House, which turned the story into something very dramatic. It wasn't like any other meeting. The leaders of the church might lose their jobs because of what they talked about behind closed doors. That Sarah Jakes Roberts would be the next boss was at the center of everything. Word of this meeting got out to some people in the congregation, and rumors started to spread. What was being talked about, and more importantly, what choices had been made behind the scenes, kept people on edge. Even though T.D. Jakes quit, he was still helping to tell the church what to do. And this meeting was one of the last big things he did as the top boss. It came out at this secret meeting that not everyone in the church leadership was ready to give Sarah the reins, even though she was qualified and had a clear plan for the future of the church. The heads of the Potter's House were becoming more and more divided over where the house should go next. Some of the older pastors and church leaders were very attached to custom. They wanted someone with more ministry experience to take over, someone they could trust to carry on T.D. Jakes' work.
Things got heated in the talk. There were fights. Some leaders wanted Sarah to lead the church with new, fresh ideas, while others thought that change should happen slowly, or that the leadership should go to someone with more experience running a church this big. What shocked everyone in the room, though, was the unexpected idea that came up during the meeting. Several sources say that one of the church's top elders suggested that Sarah and Tor Roberts should lead the Potter's House together, rather than separately, with the same goals for the future of the church. This idea caused a lot of debate. Some people think that Sarah and Tor running the church would give it new life by combining Sarah's passion with Tor's drive to make things happen. Some people were worried, though, that this choice could make Sarah and Tor fight, since they were both stars in their own right. Would the stress of the job make it impossible for them to work together, or would it push them apart? T.D. Jakes finally spoke up and said he liked the idea of co-leadership. He had been quiet for most of the conversation. He had a simple reason. Both new ideas and security were needed in the church, and Sarah and Tor could give the church both. He made it clear, though, that the community and the leadership team would make the final choice. Different people had different thoughts on the proposal, and by the end of the meeting no one knew what the final choice would be. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was now less clear than ever what would happen to the Potter's house. There was a lot of stress around the Potter's house just a few days after the secret meeting of the leaders. As word spread through the church that an official statement was coming soon, everyone was excited. The community, some of whom had been T.D. Jakes' devoted followers for decades, was on edge as they waited to hear what the ministry would do next. This announcement had a lot of weight to it. It would choose the church's mission, its legacy, and the head who would take over. At last, Sarah Jakes Roberts and her father, T.D. Jakes, took the stage together during a live stream service. Millions of people from all over the world watched from home. The crowd was packed and the air was thick with doubt. People were waiting to hear the answer to the question that had been on everyone's mind. It was an important day for the Jakes family and the church as a whole. And who would be in charge of the Potter's house from now on? T.D. Jakes began the statement with a message from the heart. He thanked the community for all their help over the years and stressed how important faith, leadership, and legacy are. Once he was done, he looked straight at Sarah and said, "It's time for the next generation to lead. It gives me great pleasure to say that Sarah Jakes Roberts will be the new leader of the Potter's house." The room was full of gasps, some of which were shock and happiness. For years, Sarah had been at the forefront of the church's growth. Now it was her job to lead the Potter's house into its next stage. But there was one more thing. Tour Roberts would be taking over as co-lead preacher with her. People had different reactions to the news. Many people were excited about Sarah's meeting, but some were still nervous. The group had never heard of the idea of co-leadership before. People started to wonder how this setup would really work in the real world. Would Sarah and Enos really be able to work together as leaders without putting each other down? How would they deal with the problems that come with running a church with such a big and varied group of people? Many people saw Tory Roberts with Sarah as a sign of how things were changing. In spite of Tory's well-established ministry and large following on his own, having both of them lead at the same time was a brave move. Some people were wondering if the church would now go in a different direction, away from the traditional roots that T.D. Jakes had set up. Sarah, who was always a great public speaker, spoke directly to the issues. She said, "It is an honor to stand here today and carry on the work that my father started, with both humility and confidence. I know that being a leader doesn't just mean being in charge, though. Giving, learning, and changing based on what God wants us to do are all parts of it. I'm not here to change what has already been made. With the help of my family and these people, I'm here to take it further." Many people in the crowd felt deeply moved by the words, and everyone felt like they were in it together for the first time in a long time. They knew that the Potter's house would be safe in the future, even though there would be problems. But what no one saw coming was the impact that the announcement still sent out. People saw the change in leadership from T.D. Jakes to his daughter Sarah as an important historical event that marked the start of a new era for the Potter's house. But as the weeks went by, it became clear that things were not going as smoothly as they seemed. Talk began to spread behind the scenes. The change in leadership was not at all easy. While Sarah was rising to the top of the church, there were rumors that not all of the senior leaders supported her. Some people thought the quick change in power was rude. Others were taken off guard because they thought they were in the running for the top spot. In the inner group, there was a lot of tension, and people were starting to notice it. A certain problem was how Sarah and Tour Roberts were feeling about each other. In public, they seemed to be on the same page as co-leaders, but behind closed doors, worries were rising about how they had different plans for the Potter's house's future. Tour had his own well-established church. He was known for being an inspiring leader and had a large group of followers. But Sarah had been getting ready to be a leader for a lot longer, having worked with her dad for many years. Things were getting tense between them. According to people who work at the church, Tour's impact was beginning to clash with Sarah's choices. Both wanted to change the church's direction, but they went about it in very different ways. Sarah wanted to keep the traditional values that had made the Potter's house special for so many years, but Tour's more modern and progressive style sometimes got in the way of that. Around the same time, Sarah's increased popularity with the younger people in the church seemed to overshadow Tour's presence. Not because of lack of skill or experience, but because of a change in how people saw them. People thought Sarah should be king or queen because she was the daughter of the famous T.D. Jakes. Turi, on the other hand, had to deal with the fact that he was seen more as a backup character than as a co-leader in his own right. This made things difficult between them because each was trying to find their own place in a ministry that had been linked to T.D. Jakes for a long time. But what really shocked everyone was someone on the church's top team. Important people who had been a part of the Potter's house for years, like pastors and key advisors, started to slowly fade from view. Pastors who had been with the church since the beginning stopped showing up to big events and services. Their disappearance wasn't talked about, which made many members wonder if the new leadership had pushed them out. Were there bigger problems going on that caused them to leave? Reports said that some top pastors had been quietly fired without giving the congregation much or any information about why. This was very rare for a church as big and important as the Potter's house. Behind the scenes, there was a rising wave of discontent that could bring down the new leadership, but the public didn't know about it. There were whispers that there was a secret plan going on, as more and more church leaders disappeared from public view. There were rumors that T.D. Jakes knew that tensions were rising in his church, but chose to keep quiet and let Sarah and Tor handle the situation on their own. Some people thought that he might have even planned the removal of people who were seen as possible threats to Sarah's rule. Because of this, people started to wonder if T.D. Jakes was purposely losing power in the church to make the change go more smoothly, or if he had seen things that were too upsetting for him to do anything about them. As the play went on, people in the audience started to doubt everything. That is, was the change in leadership really good for the church, or was there a bigger power battle going on that no one knew about? What did this mean for the future of the Potter's house, though? It was finally time for what everyone had been waiting for. When Sarah Jakes Roberts finally spoke out, everyone was stunned by what she said. Sarah talked about the real reasons her father, T.D. Jakes, quit as head of the Potter's house in an exclusive interview. And the truth was a lot more complicated than anyone thought. For many years, T.D. Jakes was the public face of the world's biggest and most important church, and his choice to step down was seen as a natural change because he was getting old and sick. A lot of people thought that his retirement was just a normal part of life. But as Sarah talked, she brought out a much deeper story that had been kept secret for years. Sarah says that her dad's choice wasn't based on his age or health, but those things did play a part. He really quit because he was having personal problems and was becoming more and more aware that his time as a leader was over, because of a change in his spiritual path. What Sarah said next, though, was even stranger.